The rain whispers secrets tonight, secrets only a wanderer could know. What would you give to uncover a truth hidden in the heart of the wild? If you want to find peace in this gentle journey through distant lands, I'd be truly thankful for a soft like and a subscribe to catch our next soothing tale. I'm sitting here in my cozy bedroom, the kind you'd imagine in a countryside cottage somewhere in England. The rain taps softly against the window, a steady rhythm that feels like it's lulling the world to sleep. There's a steaming mug of chamomile tea on my bedside table, its warmth curling into the air, mixing with the faint scent of damp earth, drifting through a cracked window. A lantern casts a golden glow over my open travel journal, its pages worn from years of stories I've collected. My quilt is pulled up to my knees, and an old map, edges curling like autumn leaves, lies spread out beside me. I can't help but feel like something's calling me tonight. A story, a true one I first heard in 2018, whispered in a quiet cafe in Kyoto, and it's stayed with me ever since. This is the story of Mary Gibb, a botanist from Scotland, who, in the late 1800s, wandered into the wilds of colonial Australia, chasing whispers of a plant no one believed existed. Her journey wasn't just about discovery, it was about time itself. How it bends and shifts when you're lost in the vastness of the world. Picture this: a woman in a simple linen dress, her boots caked with red earth, a leather satchel slung over her shoulder, standing at the edge of a eucalyptus forest under a sky so wide it could swallow you whole. That's where we begin. Mary Gibb wasn't like the other botanists of her time. Born in 1855 in Edinburgh, she grew up surrounded by the damp, mossy hills of Scotland, where she'd spend hours sketching ferns and wildflowers. By her 20s, she was already known in botanical circles for her meticulous drawings and her stubborn belief in plants that others dismissed as myths. But in 1883, something changed. A letter arrived from a fellow botanist in Melbourne, a cryptic note about a rare orchid, the Phalaenopsis aurum, rumored to bloom only once every 100 years in the rainforests of Queensland. The letter was vague, almost taunting. It mentioned a map drawn by an old explorer who'd vanished decades ago, supposedly leading to the orchid's hidden grove. I can almost see Mary now, sitting at her desk in Edinburgh, the candlelight flickering as she read that letter again and again. Can you imagine it? Holding a piece of paper that might lead you to something no one else has seen. It's the kind of moment that makes your heart race, isn't it? Like the world is daring you to step forward or turn back. Mary didn't turn back. She packed her satchel, her sketchbook, a compass, a few dried herbs for luck, and boarded a ship bound for Australia. The journey took months, the kind of voyage that tests your soul. The sea was restless, waves crashing against the hull like they were trying to warn her. But Mary, she wasn't one to listen to warnings. She'd sit on the deck at night, wrapped in a woolen shawl, staring at the stars, wondering if they'd guide her to that orchid, or if they were just watching her wander. When she arrived in Melbourne in 1884, the city was a bustle of horse-drawn carriages and dusty streets. The air smelled of coal smoke and eucalyptus, a strange mix that made her feel like she'd stepped into another world. She met the botanist who'd sent the letter, a wiry man named Thomas Reed, who handed her the map. It wasn't much to look at, just a scrap of parchment, yellowed and brittle, with faint ink lines tracing a path through Queensland's Daintree rainforest. "It's a fool's errand," Thomas told her, his voice low, like he was afraid someone might overhear. "The last man who went looking for that orchid never came back." That's when the suspense began to creep in, don't you think? Picture yourself holding that map, knowing it might lead to something extraordinary, or to nothing at all. Would you follow it? Mary did. She tucked the map into her satchel, her fingers brushing against the worn leather, and set off for the north. The Daintree rainforest wasn't like anything Mary had ever seen. Even now, as I sit here with the rain pattering outside, I can almost feel the weight of that jungle. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of wet leaves, and something sweeter, like wild honey. Vines curled around ancient trees, their roots twisting like secrets buried in the earth. The sounds bird calls, the drip of water, the rustle of unseen creatures felt alive, like the forest was watching her every step. Mary traveled alone, which was unheard of for a woman in those days. She'd hired a guide in Cairns, a quiet man named Jack, who knew the rainforest's paths, but refused to speak of the orchid. Bad luck, he'd mutter, his eyes darting to the trees. But Mary wasn't deterred. She'd sketch as she walked, her pencil capturing the delicate fronds of ferns, the sharp spines of pandanus plants. Her journal became her companion, its pages filled with notes about the forest's pulse, how it seemed to breathe, to shift, to hide things from those who didn't belong. One night, as she camped by a creek, the map slipped from her satchel. She found it half submerged in the water, the ink bleeding into strange, swirling patterns. For a moment, she thought it was ruined, but as she held it to the firelight, she noticed something new, a faint outline of a grove, hidden beneath the smudged lines. It was as if the map was revealing itself, piece by piece, like it wanted to be found, but only by her. Have you ever felt like the world was guiding you somewhere? Like every step you take is part of a bigger story? That's what Mary must have felt, her heart pounding as she traced that map with her fingertip, the fire crackling beside her. She didn't know it yet, but she was closer to the orchid than anyone had ever been, and closer to a truth that would change her forever. Days turned into weeks. The rainforest seemed to stretch on endlessly, its paths looping and twisting until Mary wasn't sure if she was moving forward or in circles. She'd wake to the sound of rain, the same soft patter I hear now, and wonder if time itself was playing tricks on her. In her journal, she wrote, "Time feels different here. It's not a line, but a spiral, curling around me like the vines." I read that line years ago, in a dusty archive in Sydney, and it stayed with me. Doesn't it make you wonder how a place can bend time, make you feel like you're part of something ancient, something bigger than yourself? One morning, Mary found a clue, a single petal, golden and translucent, caught in a spider's web. It wasn't like any flower she'd seen before. Its edges shimmered, almost glowing in the dim light. Her hands trembled as she sketched it, her pencil moving faster than her thoughts. She knew it was a sign. The orchid was close. But so was something else, something she couldn't name. That night, she heard footsteps outside her tent. Not the heavy tread of an animal, but something deliberate, like someone was circling. Her camp, Jack, her guide, was asleep, his snores mingling with the hum of the forest. Mary clutched her journal, her heart racing. She didn't dare light her lantern. Instead, she listened, the rain masking the sound of whatever or whoever was out there. By morning, the footsteps were gone, but the map had changed again. A new path had appeared, leading deeper into the rainforest, toward a place the locals called the Heart of the Green. Jack refused to go further. "That's no place for the living," he said, his voice barely a whisper. But Mary, she wasn't one to turn back. She thanked Jack, gave him her spare compass, and continued. Alone, the map tucked against her chest like a talisman. As I sit here, the rain outside growing softer, I can't help but think of Mary, stepping into the unknown. The lantern light flickers, casting shadows that dance like ghosts across my bedroom walls. I turn the page of my journal, where I've taped a sketch of that golden petal, copied from Mary's own drawings. It feels like she's here with me, whispering her story through the years. What would you do, alone in a rainforest, with only a map and a dream? Would you keep going, even if the path felt like it was leading you somewhere time forgot? Mary, did you walk deeper into the Daintree, her boots sinking into the earth, her breath catching as the trees seemed to lean closer, their branches brushing her shoulders like they were guiding her, or warning her? And then, just as the sun began to set, she saw it, a faint glow in the distance, like a star fallen to earth. The grove, the orchid. But what she found there wasn't just a flower. It was something that would make her question everything she knew about time, about wandering, about herself. The glow pulsed softly ahead, a beacon in the twilight, like a star caught in the heart of the Daintree rainforest. Mary Gibb stood still, her breath shallow, her boots sinking into the damp earth as the trees seemed to lean closer, whispering, "Secrets only they could know." I'm back in my bedroom now. The rain, a gentle patter against the window, each drop a reminder of Mary's journey. My lantern casts a warm glow over my quilt, the open journal on my lap, its pages filled with notes from her story. The scent of chamomile tea lingers, mixing with the faint dampness of the night air, and I can almost see Mary's silhouette against that golden light, her satchel heavy, her heart racing. What would you do, standing on the edge of something so beautiful, so unknown? Would you step forward, or let fear hold you back? Mary moved toward the glow, her steps slow, deliberate, as if the forest itself was watching her. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of wet leaves, moss, and something sweeter, like honey, carried on a breeze. The rainforest hummed, chirping, water dripping, the faint rustle of unseen creatures weaving through the undergrowth. Her lantern swayed in her hand, casting shadows that danced like ghosts among the trees. She reached the clearing, and there it was, the grove, a small, hidden sanctuary, bathed in a golden light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. In its center stood the Phalaenopsis aurum, the orchid she'd crossed oceans to find. Its petals were translucent, threaded with veins of gold, each one catching the light in a way that made it look alive, swaying gently, though the air was still. She knelt beside it, her breath catching as she opened her sketchbook. Her pencil moved swiftly, capturing the orchid's delicate curves, its shimmer like a fragment of sunlight trapped in time. In her journal, she wrote, "This isn't just a flower, it's a piece of eternity, blooming where no one dares to look." I found those words years ago, in a quiet archive in Sydney, and they've stayed with me, like a melody you can't forget. Have you ever seen something so beautiful, it made you feel small and infinite at once? Like you were touching something the world had kept hidden just for you. But the grove wasn't as empty as it seemed. As Mary sketched, her eyes caught a mark on a nearby tree, a name carved deep into the bark. E. Harrow, 1784. Edward Harrow, the explorer who'd drawn her map, who'd vanished a century ago, chasing this same orchid. Her pulse quickened. Was this his place? Had he knelt here too, under this same golden light? She reached out, her fingers brushing the rough carving, and felt a chill, like the forest was holding its breath. The map in her satchel felt heavier, as if it carried not just a path but a story, one that wasn't hers alone. The days blurred in the grove, time folding in on itself. Mary stayed, sketching the orchid from every angle, noting how its glow seemed to brighten at dawn, only to fade into a soft shimmer by dusk. She wrote, "This place doesn't follow our clocks. It's as if time spirals here, looping back on itself, like the vines that guard this grove." I pause now, my tea cooling beside me, the rain outside softening to a whisper. Doesn't that make you wonder how some places feel like they're outside our world, like they're waiting for you to find them, to understand them? One morning, as she brushed dew from the orchid's petals, she found something else, a small stone, half buried in the earth, etched with symbols she couldn't decipher. They weren't English, nor Latin, nor any script she'd studied in Edinburgh's libraries. They felt ancient, like whispers from a people long gone, their stories woven into the roots of the forest. She sketched them carefully, her hand trembling, her mind racing with questions. Who had carved them? What did they mean? And why did the air feel heavier now, like the grove was watching her, deciding whether she belonged? That night, the footsteps returned. They were closer this time, circling the grove, deliberate and slow. The crunch of leaves, the snap of a twig, they weren't the sounds of an animal. Mary froze, Her lantern dimmed, her journal pressed against her chest. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice steady, despite the fear creeping up her spine. The forest answered with silence, but the air grew colder, the golden glow of the orchid dimming as if in warning. She didn't sleep that night, her eyes fixed on the shadows beyond the grove, her heart pounding with the weight of being so alone, yet not alone at all. The next day, Mary made a choice. She couldn't stay forever. The grove felt too vast, too timeless, like it might swallow her if she lingered too long. She decided to take the orchid, to bring it back to the world, to prove it was real. Carefully, she dug around its roots, wrapping them in damp cloth to keep the plant alive. As she worked, her fingers brushed something else beneath the earth, a small leather pouch, hidden under a tangle of roots, as if someone had buried it there deliberately. Inside was a locket, tarnished and heavy, its surface etched with faint scratches. She opened it, her breath catching at the sight of a faded portrait of man, his eyes piercing even in the worn image. On the back, 2 initials, E.H. Edward Harrow. Her hands shook as she slipped the locket into her pocket. Had Harrow left it here, a century ago? Was it a message, a warning, or something else? The footsteps hadn't returned, but the forest felt alive, its branches swaying though the air was still, its shadows deeper than before. Mary packed her satchel, the orchid cradled carefully, the locket, a quiet weight, against her heart. She followed the map back through the rainforest, but the path felt different, no narrower, twistier, as if the forest was reluctant to let her go. She wrote, "I'm carrying more than a flower. I'm carrying a piece of this place, a story I wasn't meant to find, or was I?" The journey back to Cairns was a blur of rain and heat, the forest's hum following her like a shadow. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches brushing her shoulders, their leaves whispering secrets. She couldn't understand. At night, she'd camp by streams, the sound of water mingling with the rain, lulling her into uneasy sleep. She'd dream of the grove, of the orchid's glow, of Harrow's locket, and the footsteps that never showed their source. Each morning, she'd check the map, its ink still shifting, revealing new paths, as if it were alive, guiding her out of the forest, but never letting her forget where she'd been. When she reached Cairns, she was changed. Her face was thinner, her eyes brighter but shadowed, like someone who'd seen something the world wasn't ready for. She sent the orchid to Melbourne, where botanists studied it, catalogued it, and marveled at its beauty. But it never bloomed again, as if its light belonged only to the grove. The locket she kept. She didn't speak of the grove to Thomas Reed or anyone else, not even when they pressed her for details. Her journal, though, held the truth pages, filled with sketches of the orchid, the stone, the locket, and notes about time, about wandering, about what it means to find something that changes you forever. Mary returned to Scotland in 1885, settling into a quiet life in Edinburgh. She lived modestly, her days spent sketching plants in her garden, her nights filled with dreams of the rainforest. She died in 1910, her journal tucked away in a small archive, where I found it years later, its pages still carrying the scent of earth and adventure. I close my journal now, the rain outside barely a murmur, the lantern casting soft shadows across my bedroom. My quilt is warm, my teacup empty, but Mary's story lingers, like a melody you hear long after the song has ended. What does it mean to wander, to chase a dream no one else believes in? Mary found her orchid, but she found something more, a truth about time, about how it bends in places where the world feels alive. Her journey didn't end when she left the grove. It lives in the way the rainforest holds its secrets, in the way a single flower can carry a century's worth of stories. Maybe her story isn't just hers. Maybe it's yours, too, whispering in the quiet moments, like rain on a window, reminding you that some paths, once walked, never truly end. If you're still with us, let us know in the comments where you're wandering from and what time it is there. Dream gently.